that as this is the last Chabura before Yom Kippurim, a new Zman after Sukkot. So, and I still have one or two sessions that I still want to do to finish off the Sugya Biriyados. I thought instead, and Gabby, well, so not Gabby, sorry, Sammy. So we will. Let's look at Inyana D'Yoma a little bit. Let's look. The mitzvah really is. I'll start off with a ha'ara, an important idea from Rabbi Itzel Blazer. Yes, Koich Ve'er. Yes, the Talmud Muvak of Rabbi Yisrael Salanta. They all ask a question on the Rambam. The Rambam, who says that on Rosh Hashanah, and this is really a separate shia, which we won't do today, but on Rosh Hashanah, the way the Rambam puts it is Keshem Sheshoklin mitzvahs, the zechuyas and averus of a person la'achamisa, in the same way that there is a final reckoning, a settling of all the scores, which of course he adds, by the way, he hastens to add, it's qualitative, ve'ein shoklin elo, b'das shel keil, forgotten the exact lashon. It's qualitative. HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows how to score our averas and mitzvahs depending on our opportunities, our personalities, our talents, etc., the difficulty, etc., etc. But in order to be koveya, the shame of a tzaddik is somebody who has more mitzvahs than averas, and in other words, there is something, and I'm holding myself back from getting dragged into the topic, but it should be noted that besides for a general reckoning and consequences, right? When one passes away, there is a cheshbon, din and cheshbon, and everything you've done there is cheshbon for, din and cheshbon. Yet there is still something else that needs to be decided first, which is, who are you? What are you? Do you hear that? There's a subtlety here. Besides for rewards, schar for all your mitzvahs, oynesh for your averus. Besides for that, of course that happens. But besides for that, there is a general cheshbon, which is, who are you? Are you a tzaddik? Are you a beinoni? Are you a rosh?
So is that the basis?
The question is, what is it? But it's separate.
Okay.
And that's important to realize.
Okay.
So, for example, Ramesh Shapira, that's how he used to say, the Gemara says that when a person passes away, there's a series of questions that they get asked. Kovato itim latoira, nasato b'nasato be'emuna, osakto b'piriya v'rivya. And the question he asks is an obvious one, as it often was, once you'd heard it. What is the significance of, and the Gemara and Tosfos even discusses which of these gets asked first. Yeah, but surely you have to give din v'cheshbon at that point in time after you passed away for everything you've done. So why are these highlighted? What is unique about these? You're going to have to give absolute reckoning for everything you've said, done, and thought in your life. So what is unique about these? And in his inimitable style, he would say, this is not legabe ma'asita, ze sheila shel mi ata bichlal. Kodem kol tzrichim likvoa mi ata. Who are you? What are we dealing with? What are you? Who are you? Because there are some questions, some things which define you. There is a Jew who is koveya itim la Torah, and then there is another animal, a Jew who is not koveya itim la Torah, and they are rochik mizrach mimarav. There is a Yid who is noisev and noisin be'emuna, and one who doesn't, chas v'shalom. And they are different entities. It's not just this one does one mitzvah, that one does another one. This is definitional. This is elemental. This is, who are you? This overshadows, it creates an identity.
The components of oneself.
It's an overshadowing, overarching, definitional, elemental identity. Who are you? And it's the same thing here in a way. Tzaddik. Tzaddik is a definition. It's qualitative, as the Rambam says. And that's what takes place on Rosh Hashanah. Kashem, in the same way that we define first, before the consequences, when a person passes away, whether you're a tzaddik or a Rosh or a Beinani, Kach b'chol shona v'shona, HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides on Rosh Hashanah, who are you? Now, let's assume, without going into technicalities, because I'm still going to tell you a Rebitzel Blaza, so let's assume today we're a Beinani. Okay, we're a Beinani. A Beinani is not, of course, mathematical, because that would be a statistical improbability, and it's qualitative, and it's a bit deeper. I mean, really, anybody knows anything about Chabad, Tanya is called Sifron Shel Beinani. That's how he starts off. That's all about that definition of what it means to be a Beinani. But let's assume for the moment let's take a very basic definition, that a Beinani is somebody who is, sometimes his Yetzer Hara is in charge, sometimes his Yetzer Tov is in charge. Let's keep it very simple, right? A tzaddik does not mean somebody who never sins, and a Rasha does not mean somebody who never does Averos. Again, it's an identity. A tzaddik is somebody who, by and large, generally speaking, not just does more mitzvahs than Averos. He's a frum yid in every real respect. Yes? In fact, it's almost in the job definition of a tzaddik to do Averos, if I can say something a bit controversial. Ki adam ein tzaddik ba'aretz asher ya'aseh tov v'lo yecheta. There's no one person who is a tzaddik who does tov v'lo yecheta. A chassid, Rashi in Sukkah talks about this. Chassid is tzaddik is somebody who is, you can be a Baal Tshuva, you can also be a tzaddik. Okay? Tzaddik and Gemurim. Okay, the definition can become a bit complicated. Mm-hmm. So let's see. So where are we? We're sitting, we're in Aseres Tshuva, right? In Aseres Tshuva, we are Beinanim. Now, if it is, as the Rambam says, okay, it's true, it may have to do with quality. Just give me a second. I just want to lay out a quick question. Although it may have to do with quality of mitzvahs and averos, but surely all I need to do to be a tzaddik is to tip the balance. So surely we should be very careful in Aseres Tshuva to do more mitzvahs than averos, and then job done. That's what you would think. But this is not true. The Rambam writes very clearly in Hilchos Tshuva that if, in Aseres Tshuva, if you have to do tshuva, if you don't do tshuva, nothing will help. In other words, it doesn't matter however many mitzvahs you do, that's not good enough. You have to do tshuva. And the question they all ask is, why not? Yeah, what did you want to?
Are, Beinonim
yes.
is covering everyone, even the status of Beinoni is, so to speak, on Hoshana put generally over everyone?
Well, you don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
And therefore, let us hope that we're not Rishoim.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I'm certainly not arrogant enough to say that I'm a tzaddik. So therefore, the correct way for self-perception in the Aseres Tshuva is that we are a Beinani. Okay?
Right.
In which case, the Rambam paskins, tshuva is your only hope. Nothing else. Tshuva. Only tshuva. And the question, of course, they ask is, well, why? Surely, why? All I need to do is do more mitzvahs than averos. And the answer Rebitzel Blaza gives, and this is important just also in the understanding of the Aseres Tshuva, Dirshu Hashem behi motza'oi, kra'uhu behi yosoi korov. Search Hashem, seek Him, call out to Him when He is to be found and when He is near. Eilu, says the Gemara, Asaru Yamim Shebein Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippurim. Hashem is to be found. It's easier to connect to Him. This is a whole separate topic, how it works. Therefore, if He has made Himself available to you, you have an opportunity. Therefore, the avera of not doing tshuva is to spit in His face so badly that no amount of mitzvahs that you're going to do is going to outweigh it. We have an opportunity. We have an opportunity, and the opportunity becomes an imperative. It becomes an obligation. Because to ignore it means one of two things. Either I don't believe that it, chas v'sholem, or I don't care. And that avera of apathy will outweigh anything else. And therefore, Teshuva, this is really just meant to be the introduction. Went on a bit too long. So, an introduction to a seminal piece of Mesilas Yesharim in explaining for us Teshuva. Teshuva is a massive topic. In Mitzvah Hashem, I'll be talking about it on Shabbos and Shabbos Teshuva, and in the drasha, or one aspect of it at least. But let's look at, let's see, I don't know how far we're going to get, but let's see. So you don't actually have this here. It's just on the page before. It's in Perek Daled. And he quotes a Gemara in Chagiga, where the Gemara says that and we're doing 60 Sharim, but just two lines before we start, that it's a Rebbe or Rabbi Yochanan, when he came to this pasuk, he would cry, "V'koravti aleichem lamishpat v'hoyisi eid memaher." HaKadosh Baruch Hu says that pasuk in Malachi, I will bring you close towards me for mishpat, and I will judge you for everything that you've done. So the Gemara says, so why did he cry? Eved sheshoklim olav kalos kebachamuros takono yeshloi. An Eved that all Averas are reckoned, small and big. What hope do we possibly have? And so he cried. Says the Mesillas Yesharim. Sorry?
Is it which paragraph?
It's Perek Daled.
Daled.
It says it at the top, I think. And now we're going to be on page Reish Yud Ches here. Yes, on page Reish Yud Ches.
Yeah.
So he explains it. Let's learn it inside. Let's do it inside. So he's now going to explain this Gemara. Omnam ha'inyan hu. What did Rabbi Yochanan mean when he cried and he said that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will weigh up and give consequences for small and big actions? What did he mean? Omnam ha'inyan hu. Shele inyan mishkal ha'maisim kach oilis bekaf ha'kalis k'may ha'chamuros. What it means is nothing is overlooked. It doesn't mean that they're treated the same. Of course not. There are Averos which are worse than others, and therefore they are punished accordingly. What it means is, what he's saying is, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't just say, oh, all right, never mind. We'll let you have that one. Doesn't matter. I'll turn a blind eye to that. Every single thing will be, there is a consequence for every single thing. Just because you have serious Averos doesn't mean that they somehow overshadow, or we don't need to take into account the small Averos. No. He will not overlook the big ones, the small ones, any more than the big ones. Each of them will be treated with the due attention that they deserve. Each one will be dealt with as they deserve. And this is what Shlomo HaMelech meant when he writes in the end of Koheles, Ki es kol maaseh ha'elokim yoveh b'mishpat. Ki es kol maaseh, every action, comma, ha'elokim yoveh b'mishpat, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will judge us for. Ki kashe'ein HaKadosh Baruch Hu maniach. Now, the way to look at this is as follows. He's now going to give a little, I'd like to flesh it out in a simple mashal. Imagine, let me ask you a question. Imagine you get to Olam Haba, and you come to Olam Haba, and they start rewarding you for the big mitzvahs that you've done. And you're looking and seeing what you're going to get Gan Eden for, Olam Haba, for all the big mitzvahs, the many big mitzvahs that you did. And then you're looking on the list and you see the stuff missing. Smaller mitzvahs. And you say, what would you say? Would you say, okay, never mind, I'm getting Olam Haba for my big mitzvahs? What would you say? What are you going to say? Imagine, picture yourself.
Something is fishy.
Would it be something fishy? I'm giving you, excuse me, you're getting nice eternity for all the big stuff you did. Is that?
Yeah, okay.
You would say okay. Would you accept that?
I don't know. I wouldn't.
What?
Chaval.
You'd say chaval, or would you kick up a fuss?
Why a fuss?
You go to I don't know. You go to a shop, right? And let me just give you a moshel. You go to a shop and you pay for an item which costs 85 euros. You go and you pay with a €100 bill, and they give you back 10 euros change. What would you say?
Too little.
You owe me money.
Yeah.
If you have done mitzvahs, so what, you're getting reward for the big mitzvahs? I'm sure you would say to, excuse me, what's fair is fair. I did other mitzvahs as well. Why should I not be rewarded for them? Would you be okay if Hashem, if the Malach says, oh, we're going to overlook those? No, you're not. We would surely insist that it is fair and right and correct and just that I should be rewarded for everything I've done. Well, so too, says the Mesillas Yesharim, you have to take the rough with the smooth. If you've got to be fair and consistent. If that would be the average, everybody would understand that to be equitable, to be fair, just and correct, you should be rewarded for everything you've done. Well, then so too, you get punished for everything you've done. Just because you get big punishment for the big stuff doesn't mean you should not, that it isn't fair to get smaller punishment for the small stuff. That's what he's about to say in the next half paragraph. Okay, let's do that. In the same way, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not withhold reward for us for even the smallest things that we do. So too, HaKadosh Baruch Hu should not. In other words, it's incorrect. It's not emes. It's not mishpat. Emes and mishpat is to get the exact consequence of every action you've done, big or small, good or bad. It's just mashenachon. The Israelis say no, mashenachon nachon. That's how it should be. So much so, skip a line. He says the Gemara says, "Kol ha'omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu vatron yivatru me'ohi." Anybody who says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu just he forgives, he overlooks. Levater. You know that midah that we teach our kids. Be mevater. Yeah, give in. Yeah. So he had the toy first, she had the toy. Okay, okay. Be mevater. But when it comes to schar and einesh, kol ha'omer, says the Gemara, kol ha'omer HaKadosh Baruch Hu vatran hu. Anybody who says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is a vatran, he just says, oh, there, never mind. It doesn't matter. That is really bad. Yivatru me'ohi, which means your intestines should be overlooked. Not good. V'chein amru. Shay. Now let's go on. V'zeh davar poshet u'mavura. V'zeh davar poshet u'mavura. Says in the 6 Yesharim, it is obvious. Ki hinei el emes Hashem. Because HaKadosh Baruch Hu is emes. V'hu ma she'omar Moshe Rabbeinu olav ha'shalom hatzur tomim pa'oloi ki chol derachov mishpat eil emunah ve'ein ovel. All his ways are just. They're correct. He is a true God. Ve'ein ovel, he does not do any injustice. Ki kimish HaKadosh Baruch Hu reitz b'mishpat. Since HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants mishpat, it is equally unjust to ignore a small aveira as it is to ignore a small mitzvah, or vice versa. Yeah? Justice is justice. What is. Al kain in mishpat hu tzarich sheyitin l'cholish kidrochim chifri malon v'tachlis adiktik ben etoy ben amutar. Fine. Okay, we got the point. Bottom line. V'im toima. Im kain. Now we have a massive problem. And I don't know how far we're going to get today. Don't have long. But at least I can open up the sugya a little bit. And maybe in your own time you can finish it off. It's a big topic. This is one of the classic texts, the Makoros on this topic. So here we have a major problem. And maybe I will introduce it by, I think it was Rabbi Yisrael Sananta. I might be wrong, but I think it was Rabbi Yisrael Sananta who writes, when we get to Shamayim after 120 years, we will not recognize HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Meaning, we down here, while we are physically alive, get used to a perspective of Rachum, Chanun. We're coming up to the Yom Kippur again and again. Yud Gimel Midas Rachamim, Chesed, Chanun, V'nakei. We get to Shamayim, it's Olam HaEmes. In Emes, there is Din. There is no Rachamim. There is no Chesed, there is no Rachamim. It's entirely absent. Why? Because Rachamim is not Emes. It's Sheker. You did something, you did something. You pay the price. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not a vatran. He doesn't just say, there, never mind, oh, whatever. No, because that's not emes. And Chosama Shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu is emes. And he's right said by mishpat. So we have a major problem. We get a very warped perspective, or maybe we're not understanding really what's going on over here. We do, that's the problem. That is the question we get. Very good. Okay. In Shamayim, when we will encounter HaKadosh Baruch Hu in Olam HaEmes, after 120 years, there will be one thing only, emes. It's an environment where something either is or isn't. You did a mitzvah, here is the consequence. You did an avera, this is the consequence. There's no forgiveness, there's no teshuva, that means there is no chesed, there is no rachamim. So we're now actually doing something really interesting. We're painting chesed and rachamim. We always talk about them as, wow, wonderful, amazing, desirable things. Well, really, no, maybe they're actually something totally different. They're sheker. So where does the midah of rachamim, how can it manifest? It's the opposite of emes. Ve'im toimar, im kein midas harachamim lomo hi oimedes. He actually puts the question a bit differently, and I don't want to get too technical or too philosophical, because the Ramchal wrote his words very carefully. He could have asked a different question. He didn't, but I'll leave that for you. He asks, why? He asks, what is the point? Midas harachamim lomo hi oimedes. Why? Not what I would have asked. How on earth can it even exist? How can a true HaKadosh Baruch Hu, who is true, and emes and mishpat and din are one and the same thing, where is the place that rachamim can even exist? How can it even exist? He doesn't say that. He doesn't ask that. He asks a different question. He says, Lama hi emedes. What is the point? Kiven she'al kol ponim tzarich lidaktik bedin al kol davar. His question is a utilitarian question, forgive me. Yeah? He's saying, what's the point? You're just delaying the inevitable. There has to be din. Din will out. The time will come when every single one of us will stand and face a reality, where emes is emes and din is din, and it just is. Whatever is. It's not punishment, it's not harsh, there's no punishment. It's consequence. So therefore, why? What is the point? That's his question. Midas harachamim lomo hi midas, kiven shal kol ponim tzarich lidaktik bedin al kol davar. That's his question. What's the point? Why? Let's see the answer. Teshuva. Vadai midas harachamim hi kiyumoy shel olam. Now, I need to add one technical point for you, which, just so that, in case you don't know, maybe you do, forgive me if I assume too little. What's the difference between rachamim and chesed?
Rachamim is mafreya, and chesed is something you do for. Rachamim is something you do when someone has done something already.
Like react. No?
And chesed is
interesting.
Yeah.
I was going to reject what you're saying, but I actually want to. There may be some. You may be right at some level, but I want to. A nice point. I actually quite like that. One is proactive and one is reactive. There is you. Where did you get this from? Okay, interesting. Okay, I think you might actually be right, but at its root, it's deeper than that. In deeper thought, in Kabbalistic terms, Chesed is the mid of Avram, Rachamim is the mid of Yaakov. Yeah, just connected to Ferris. Let me explain. Chesed, you're quite right. Chesed is not a response to a need per se. Chesed is a midah and a motivation, a desire to give. Mm-hmm. It's about giving. Yeah?
So it's also then din and gvura works the same way?
Absolutely.
Also,
yeah,
so
absolutely. No. Give me a second. Okay. I'm about to explain. Okay. So chesed, again, chesed is connected to Avram, which means to give. It certainly has nothing to do with the merit of the recipient. Nothing at all. Mm-hmm. It's utterly irrelevant. It is a midah. It's not even necessarily an action. The Gemara says in Sukkah, "Ein tzedakah mishtalemes ela lefi chesed sheba." Yes, you can have tzedakah. Tzedakah is the focus on the recipient. Yeah, chesed is why I am doing it. Chesed is the midah of giving, of altruism, of wanting to give, not to take. Yes. Mm-hmm. It's got nothing to do with Avraham Avinu and the third day of his bris milah, and there is nobody to give to. Okay, so go to bed. If there's somebody that needs, okay, you're Bal Chesed, somebody needs, you're in pain, you can't give him because you're ill. I get that. There's nobody. No. He wants to give. So Hashem sends him people who don't need anything, but he can give. It's not about them, it's about him, it's about giving. The opportunity, more than the opportunity, it's an existential faculty. Because if we are like HaKadosh Baruch Hu can only give. Yes, a perfect being, he can only give. And we have that inside of us. It's to give. That's exact, yeah, at some level. Yeah. Then you have the exact opposite of that, which is Yitzchak, which is Din, Gevura, which is only that which is absolutely deserved and earned. Exactly. Only that's Din, exact opposite. And then you have Rachamim, which is a mizug of Chesed and Din. Rachamim is a mixture of Chesed and Din. It is a bit of Chesed and a bit of Din. Okay? Which is why, by the way, Mariv, which is Keneged Yaakov, starts with the words V'hu Rachum. Yes?
Nice.
Yeah. Okay. So this is all pretty basic stuff. But the reason I'm mentioning this is because, of course, the Ramchal, as a master Kabbalist, uses his words very carefully. And he says, Midas harachamim lama hiyomedes. He uses the word rachamim. Let's just be aware of that. What did you want to ask, Gabby?
Almost, yeah.
What?
I'm so, yeah.
No, I thought you were going to ask something because
If I'll remember.
You maybe let me know.
Yeah.
Okay. Teshuva. So this is the question. The question is, what is the point of Midas HaRachamim? Because the time has to come anyway. Tzarich l'daktik b'din b'chol davar. Teshuva. Vadai Midas HaRachamim hi kiyumoy shel olam. Midas HaRachamim is the modality which, it's the operating system of the world. It's kiyumoy shel olam. Shaloi haya oimed zulosoi klal. Without which the world could not continue to exist. Let me take you back a little bit. And this is important. These three stages, if you like, processes, right? Which is in Kabbalah, it's Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, which is really b'makbil to pretty much every three in Yiddishkeit, yeah? You just have to know how to work it out. Pesach, Shavuos, Sukkos, Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes, Shabbat, Torah, Avodah, Gemilas, Chasodim, Shachos, Mincha, Mariv, etc. Yeah, every three. It's an idea, it's opposite, and the synthesis of the two, which creates something by incorporating and balancing the two, which creates a new thing which is much greater than the sum of the parts, which, by the way, that's the human being. Yeah, the neshama and the guf and davka and only davka together manages to create something much bigger than each of the components on its own. I can only get to olam haba with my neshama by using my physical body, arm to put on tefillin, etc., etc. Even if I'm thinking something, it's neurons, physical neurons, etc., etc. Yeah. But, and in Brias Ha'olam, we also had these three, didn't we? Why does HaKadosh Baruch Hu create the world? Chesed, Olam Chesed Yibano. Why does he create? In order to give. How does he create? Bereshis bara Elokim. He creates in Din. And then immediately transposes it, Hashem Elokim, Amad V'shit of Midas HaRachamim. Then he brings in Midas HaRachamim straight away. Okay, again, those three modalities or three stages of the process. You see that in everything. Yeah, you have a concept. It is tested and challenged by its opposite, and then the synthesis creates something bigger. So let's see. Again, I don't know how far we're going to get. Teshuva. Vadai Midas HaRachamim hi kiyumoy shel olam. The midah of the Midas HaRachamim is the midah through which the world keeps going. Shaloi haya omed zulosei klal. Va'afal pikein. Nevertheless, ein Midas Hadin loike. Midas Hadin literally doesn't suffer. It isn't denied. It is still able to, so to speak, hold its head high. Midas Hadin, eina Midas Hadin loike. Literally, like Malchus, right? It doesn't suffer. Vozeh. And here is really where it starts. Vozeh. he is now going to say 3 consequences of doing an Aveira. Vozeh, ki lefi shuras hadin mamash, according to absolute strict din. Now, it gets a little bit more complicated because din also has 2 faces in Kabbalah as well. Din Akashi and Din Arafia, which is the 2 days of Rosh Hashanah and various other things. But shuras hadin mamash. Hoyoroi, it is appropriate. Shahachoite ye'onesh miyad tekef lechetoi beli hamtona klal. Number 1, if you drink poison, right? Right, assuming it is a fatal dose, depending on how much of it and your mass, your body weight, blah, 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 but the effect will be immediate. The toxins enter your bloodstream and the effect, whatever they are, whether to make you mildly ill, nauseous, or to kill you, the effects are immediate because it is an effect. It is a consequence. It is a direct consequence. Mm-hmm. Every Aveira also has a direct consequence, an internal ruchniistic consequence, which then should immediately manifest itself in the physical counterpart, whatever that is. So there would be some Aveiras. In fact, that's why the famous Yerushalmi, there's a Gemara Yerushalmi, the Gemara Yerushalmi says, Nefesh achitas matahei oleh. What should be the fate of somebody who sins? Nefesh hachoitas, and that's even b'chet, that's b'shogig. What happens if you drink poison by mistake? It doesn't make a difference, you still die. Nefesh hachoitas, and the Shalu la chochma, they asked chochma, and chochma says, consequence, whatever it is, you die. You do an Aveira, you die. You've just written yourself out of the script of existence of reality. Bye. It's not a punishment, it's not. Everybody who does an Aveira, whatever the consequence, not the punishment, the direct consequence of that spiritual toxin that you have absorbed, that you have done. In fact, I mean, the Sfarim HaKadoshim say, you create a negative spiritual entity, which, a malach, whatever you want to call it, which also needs to live. It needs a power source. Mm-hmm. And it goes to Hashem, and Hashem says, don't wait coming to me. Go to the guy that created you and go and take his neshama. And really, that's what should happen. He doesn't do that, but that's, it's another story. So really, number 1, lefi shuras hadin mamish hoyorosh, it should be immediate. In other words, the notion of time as a delay is nonsensical from a Midas Hadin standpoint. Right. Midas Hadin, if you fall off a roof, a tall roof, you don't make a mess on the pavement 3 weeks later. You just, whatever happens. It's just, whatever, you've done the poison, whatever it's now. The concept of a time delay it goes against any law of nature, physical and indeed spiritual. Beli hamtona klal, there should be no delay. Number 2, v'gam sheho'inish atzmi yebchoroin af koroi lemishamam raboy pi habeiri yizborach shemoy. Number 2, it should be, he really brings in anger. Somebody who rebels against Hashem. In other words, my understanding of this is that it should be total. It should be immediate. It should be total. Whatever the consequence is. The full package. Right. And thirdly, v'shelo yeh tikun lachet klal. And certainly that it should be irreversible. So when a person does an Aveira, according to Midas Hadin, Midas Hadin would demand in the same way, you fall off a roof, you fall all the way down immediately, and you're dead. The end. It's not reversible. So these are the 3 points. Let's just get this clear. This is really important. Number 1, it should be immediate. Number 2, it should be total. Number 3, it should be irreversible. Mm-hmm. That's Midas Hadin.
Is nature working by din exclusively?
You tell me. Have you ever tried arguing with a live current and begging for rachamim?
Physics.
No, physics. That's it. Right. It's just and there are chukim. There are spiritual laws of nature that if a person eats something which is not kosher, it contaminates your neshama, and it doesn't matter whether you meant it or not. It's actually irrelevant. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a reality. Now he stresses the third point a little bit more than the others. Ki hinei be'emes. Eichi sakin ha'odom asher ives var na'asa. How is it possible for a person to rectify the sin when it's already been done? And here he gives a moshel, which if you have not understood properly what I've said, you will say this analogy doesn't work. Here is analogy. Imagine, let me put it to you you're standing in front of the judge, and it's a murder trial. And it's very clear, you did this as premeditated murder. And the judge says to you, tell me, do you have anything to say? Yes, Your Honor, I am sorry. Okay, but he's still dead. I get that you're sorry, but he's still dead. In other words, in terms of reversing the process, even if you're really, truly, deeply, madly sorry, besides yourself sorry, but it doesn't change a reality. Avera is a reality. It's a ruchnistic reality, but it is a reality nonetheless. And therefore, Teshuva is absolute insanity. It makes no sense whatsoever. That's what he's asking. Somebody murdered. If a person committed adultery. It is actually an impossibility. In a world where there is a linear flow of time, a world where there is cause and effect, Siba u'mesoivev, the concept of Teshuva, i.e., turning the clock back, just doesn't make any sense. Doesn't matter whether it's for physical stuff or for ruchnistic. It's done. It's now a reality. There is a reality. Is it possible? It is impossible. So he's really just made the question even worse, right? He asked, why? What's the point of Midas HaRachamim? Anyway, there's going to have to be din at some point. He then goes on and says, no, Midas HaRachamim is the OS, the modality through which the world operates. Because Midas HaDin would demand that when a person does an Aveira, that there is immediate, total, irreversible consequence. Om. However, Midas HaRachamim, Midas HaRachamim allows for the opposite, the antithesis of these three things. Dahainu, number one, sheyutan zman lachote. Time. Time should be given to the sinner. Unlike falling off a roof, eating poison where the consequence is immediate, when it comes to Aveira, Midas HaRachamim is able to successfully negotiate with Din to say, okay, Din, okay, Mr. Din, you will get your day. It will happen. What do you want? There should be a consequence? Absolutely. You're 1,000% right. And it will come. La Chamisa or later, it will happen. Just not quite yet. Of course, you're right. You're saying there has to be an absolute total consequence, 1,000%. You're absolutely right. That is Din, that is Emes. It has to happen, you're right. A little bit of time, please. That's all. Rega. That's all he's saying. Not to drop dead on the spot when you die is negotiated between. Now, chesed would be to say, there, never mind. That's not going to hold up, for the moment at least.
Yeah.
Din says, drop dead on the spot. Rachamim comes along and mediates and negotiates between the two. And said, chesed, you say, well, whatever. Din, you say, drop dead. I'm saying, turning to both of you and say, Din, yes, you're absolutely right. There will have to be Din. Absolutely. But you know what? Let's use a little bit of chesed just to ask for a slight delay. Not yet. You don't drop dead immediately when you sin. Number one. That's point number one. Got it? Number two, number two, that even when there is a punishment, it shouldn't be total. There needs to be a punishment, Mr. Din, Rabbi Din. There has to be a punishment. But when it happens, it should be partial. Or, we'll see in a minute, we won't actually, a part payment kind of thing, right? You can do it in installments, maybe. Ultimately, there will be. Don't forget. Ultimately, in Olam Ha'emes, after 120 years, there is no Chesed. There's no Rachamim either. There's no Rachamim either. It's total utter Din. But Rachamim is able to negotiate with Din not only a delay, a lag, a time lag, but also that when there does have to be a bit of Din in this world, it should only be a bit. The rest is on installment. It's there. You'll have your day in court. It'll happen. The Gemara says it was a Gehinnom. You put your hand in the wrong pocket. You know the Gemara in Chabura, yeah? Put your hand in the wrong pocket. And that also gets cheshbon. It goes off your balance in Olam HaEmes. Whatever. How, why, what. So that's point number 2. Now here comes the real kicker. And unfortunately, we're beginning to run out of time. And notice how he changes his lashon. So we're up to point number 2. What was the third one? It should be irreversible. Now look at this. Teshuva tinosein lachotim b'chesed gomor. He's no longer using the language of Rachamim. He's now using different lashon. And that tshuva should be given to chotim b'chesed gomor. Now, and the next bit should be a fridge magnet. Okay? You want to know what tshuva is? This is it. This is your fridge magnet coming up. Shetechoshev akiras horotzoin ka'akiras hamaaseh. Full stop. That's it. That's tshuva. That what? That the uprooting of the desire should be reckoned like the uprooting of the action itself. I am going to stop here because I need to go and time's up, and we're just beginning to get into it. So all I can do is we'll see. I don't know if I'm going to have time. Maybe I'll make a YouTube video on this to post it, because it's the part 2. We're just really getting into it. Let's summarize the 3 things that Midas Hadin demands. Number 1, that any consequence for an Aveira should be immediate, total, and irreversible. Rachamim negotiates that there should be a time lag, a delay, and that it should be, so to speak, in installments, bits of din in this world. And finally, and here he invokes chesed gomor, that tshuva, notice also his lashon is so medukta. Tshuva should be given to a choyte b'chesed gomor. He doesn't talk about how tshuva operates, and that gets a bit more complicated, technical. But we're not going to do that today. But teshuva is that tshuva. There's actually, again, 3 bits in tshuva, but that tshuva, and by the way, we're told tshuva was created before the world. Mm-hmm. And that is a way of implying that it's what was before the world. What was before the world was the desire to create the world, which was chesed. Right? Mm-hmm. So it's not limited by the din or even the rachamim of the world in its existence. It is before the world. It's shaykh to, which means chesed. Tshuva should be given to chotim b'chesed gomor. That's chesed gomor. There's no rachamim. Although there is a logic, and the logic is shetechoshev akiras harotzim kakiras hamaisa, that the uprooting of the, if you can, you see, there is one. I'll give you one little tidbit, not to leave the whole. And that's before we get to Reb Tzadok discusses this. And there are 2 brachas in Shemona Esra, where in the closing of the bracha, we refer not to HaKadosh Baruch Hu as doing something, but as invoking, so to speak, an emotion. Okay. Correct. Yeah. One of them is Oyhet Tzedakah or Mishpat. Mm-hmm. He loves that. What's the other one? Is Roitze b'tshuva. He wants tshuva. And it's no coincidence that the Mesilas Yesharim says that teshuva is the uprooting of rotzain. Shetechoshev akiras harotzain. It's all about rotzain. He is roitze b'tshuva, and he wants us to reverse our rotzain. And here's the answer. There is, you know what can't be reversed? An action can't be reversed. The consequences of an action can't be reversed. But there is one sphere of human, not even activity. There's one part of us which is absolutely reversible and is not limited by time, and that is emotions. I can attach an emotional label to an action, which I can then detach and attach a totally different one. For example, very simple, banal, forgive me example. I'm on a diet, and then I see this amazing chocolate brownie winking at me. It's got my name on it. It's just like, right, whatever, okay? I just give in. I just take that chocolate brownie, I make a beautiful mazonos, of course, but I really become one with the whatever. So at that time, I had an incredible amount of rotzoin was attached to that action. Mm-hmm. And then, half an hour later, I really, truly, utterly, deeply, sincerely regret having eaten that brownie. And that I'm able to do. What I can't do is undo the eating of the brownie. That's done. With all its extra grams that it's put on me, whatever. That's done. That's irreversible. But there is one thing that is reversible, and that is my frame of mind, my emotional landscape. The emotion that attached to that item, I can look at it as a post-it note. I can take it off. It was love, desire, want, right there, that brownie. I can retrospectively, totally change my mind. We say I can change my mind. I take that label off and I put on stick on a new post-it note onto that action, an emotion I attach to it, which says, you're such an idiot. You should never have done that. How could you be so stupid and so shallow to give in to eating a brownie, you idiot? And you can really, 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 really regret it. And that's fine. What has changed? Your connection to that action. Mm-hmm. Your emotional connection, that is reversible. It goes much deeper than that, but at least I didn't want to leave it with no explanation. At least it's a start. Maybe, I don't know if I'll get a chance to post a part 2 to this, because we're really just beginning to get into it. It goes deeper than this. All right, that's it for today.